And welcome back, everyone, to the Excellent Decisions podcast. This is Robert McPhee, your host, and my guests and I are here to help you make more excellent decisions based on your vision, your values, your value, rather than all the stress and pressure that we're faced with in today's world. And this is actually part of what we're calling the Wisdom series, because that stress and pressure has seemingly been ramped up a little bit in the last few weeks as we deal with this crazy coronavirus situation. And I realized that I was having a relatively easy time dealing with the situation because of the amazing teachers and mentors and collaborators that I've had over the years. And I thought it would be a really good time to reach out to some of them and ask if they would be willing to share their wisdom with my audience as a way to help as many people as possible cope effectively and not get drawn into so much of the panic that's out there. So one of my previous podcast guests, Steve Farber, agreed to join us today. Hello, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing fine, all things considered. Thank you.
All right. Yes,
How
exactly.
are you?
All things considered. So
by the way, that's a great kickoff question for an interview nowadays. How are you right now?
Right now, in this moment. Don't look back. Don't look ahead. Just right now. How are you? And then everyone's fine.
Yeah. Exactly.
So if people haven't heard the previous episode, I want to give them just a quick glimpse of who you are. If they want the full bio, they can go to the other episode. But Steve's the president of Extreme Leadership Incorporated, the founder of the Extreme Leadership Institute. He's written 4 books. His new book, which is awesome, is called Love is Just Damn Good Business. That's a bold title, by the way. I love that.
Thank you.
He is a good friend. He, like I said, is a mentor, a teacher, and he is super fun to hang out with. So we're all blessed to have him here today. And one of the first questions I've been asking everyone who's been, gracious and willing to join me for this Wisdom series is just kind of the 30,000 foot view. Now, from your perspective, having been out there in the world of business and leadership and parenting and everything else, like, what are you seeing going on out there? What's your perception of what's happening right now?
All right, so here's my perception. I'm not sure how you spell it, but it's something like this. No, not really. Actually, it's kind of the opposite of that. I don't claim to have this figured out any more than anybody else, but I will also admit that I do have a propensity to optimism. And I don't want to diminish the challenge that we're all facing. It is awful. And for people who've been affected by the virus or know people who are affected by the virus, people who have lost their lives because of the virus, it's a serious thing, no doubt about it. And there's something kind of amazing. And I know I'm stating the obvious, or I should be stating the obvious for anybody who's even mildly awake right now. It's amazing and wonderfully ironic that this physical distancing, in many ways, is bringing people closer together. I've had more conversations with people this week on Zoom than just in this last week. Are we in a new week now? Yeah, we're recording this on a Monday. All the days look the same. But I've had more conversations on Zoom with people in the last week than I've had in a very long time, and talking with people that I otherwise wouldn't be talking to. And there's a lot of that going on. I mean, it's amazing that, we're entertaining each other. There's music online, live music. And it's like, there are places on Facebook that are like a 24-hour open mic session. We're dancing, people having, dances together and raves and all online is really kind of miraculous, kind of wonderful. And looking ahead, because we're going to get through this. The question isn't if we're going to get through it. The question is when, right? On the other end of that, we will have developed new habits of connection that I think are only going to get deeper once we can actually sit in the same room and breathe the same oxygen again. So that's where I am focusing my energy on and my attention on. And also I'm being, we're just being very, very cautious and safe and staying in.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said something
which I think, by the way, is a very easy excellent decision to make right now. If there were ever a time for a very easy, excellent decision, it's right now. And that's is stay home.
Stay home. Yes. Listen, follow directions from the people who you trust. Yeah. And fortunately, the people we trust and the people we don't trust are all basically telling us the same thing right now. Right. Stay home. It's unanimous. But you said something about stating the obvious. And I hear what you're saying. It's like, duh, Captain Obvious. But it's also really important to remember. Like every time I feel like someone who I trust and someone whose opinion I value is saying, well, this might, be stating the obvious. The truth is, it's almost always something that's really good for me to remember in that moment.
Yeah.
And we are getting pulled into all these other conversations. I feel like there's this constant invitation into panic and fear and scarcity and worry.
Yeah.
And again, I feel blessed. I've been able to hang around with people like you for 20 years. And I share your propensity towards optimism and your advice to pay attention as well.
I think
people need to hear that.
Yeah, well, you say that's true. Thank you. Sometimes what's obvious to us, seems obvious to us, is not obvious to other people. So let's just state the obvious then.
Yeah.
In the hopes that it'll be a good reminder, and for those for whom it's not obvious, it's an insight.
Yeah.
You said the word scarcity, and it's interesting. One of the other things that really strikes me is that, we've always, people in kind of the personal development world, the transformational leadership world, and all of that, have always taught and subscribed to this idea of, if you want abundance, you have to have an abundance mindset, because the opposite of that, scarcity, a scarcity mindset will cause scarcity. And isn't it interesting that we're seeing that play out in very literal ways, that a scarcity mindset is literally creating scarcity in some arenas.
Mm-hmm.
Why is there a shortage of toilet paper? Because people are afraid there's a shortage of toilet paper. That's the reason. I was talking to a friend of mine who lives in New York City, which is, as we know, the epicenter right now. And he was saying that in the city, versus Long Island and Jersey and all that, in New York City, there is no scarcity in the stores. Every store is stocked full of everything that you need. And the reason, he tells me, and it makes sense, the reason is that in New York City, you have no place to hoard anything. Right? You don't have a garage that you can fill up with toilet paper or whatever.
Yes.
So because you have no place to hoard anything, nobody is hoarding anything. And because nobody is hoarding anything, there's no need to hoard anything.
Yeah.
And isn't that basically the way life works in general? We're just seeing a very stark illustration of that. So what I'm trying to do is doing the best I can. And, it varies. My ability to do this varies from hour to hour. Yeah. The best I can to keep an abundance mindset, which is focused on being creative and using this as an opportunity to connect with more people, knowing that it will play out on the financial side of things in some form, in some way, at some time. When I can focus on that, I feel fine. When I'm focused on, wait a minute, all my gigs dried up, that creates a different kind of internal environment, right?
Yeah.
And and the other thing that I find so in an odd way comforting is that we're all facing that. Virtually all of us, unless we're incredibly wealthy people that don't have to worry about money for years and years. But even folks like that, some of whom we both know together, they're still concerned about their business functioning and their employees. So we all are sharing a very universal fear. And when I say all, I mean literally the whole planet.
Yeah.
I take some comfort in that, because I figure, as human beings, we're really good at screwing things up. But also as human beings, we're really good at solving problems. And we're all focused on solving the same problem right now. Right. So I got to believe that some of the solutions that come out are going to be really exceptional.
Well, I would totally agree. And it is good to see, for the most part, I mean, there's some crazy stories out there about the worst of people coming out, but for the most part, what I see is the best of people coming out. The same thing that I saw in, this is a macro crisis in terms of impacting literally the entire world. But when, I live in Northern California, when we had the fires, we saw the best in people come out amidst people losing their homes and in some cases losing their lives. But we saw the best in people come out, and it sure seems like that's what we're seeing now as well.
Yeah. The other thing that I've had a few conversations around this with friends who are in varying kind of hot spots, right? If you look at the number of casualties, the number of deaths around the world, and compare it to some other, you mentioned the wildfires. Most of us watched the wildfires on TV. Most of us watched 9/11 on TV.
Katrina,
most of us watched the tsunami
mm-hmm.
in Thailand and in 13 other countries on TV. And if you look at the loss of life, for example, in that tsunami, it was hundreds of thousands of people died. So what's the difference? Why didn't we feel that the same way? Because it's not in our neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's somewhere else. It seems distant. And what we're experiencing now is that it's affecting us. It's in everybody's neighborhood. So it really brings us together. I mean, not that people weren't compassionate in helping, in the aftermath of great disasters like the hurricanes and all that. Of course we do. And that brings out the best in people as well. But it feels different because we can help from afar. And here we're having to cope, and we're all touched by it, literally touched. So I believe that it will bring out, for the most part, the best in everybody. And there's always exceptions to that, right? Always exceptions. Doesn't matter what the circumstance is.
The clown with the garage full of Purell, they're always going to be there.
Hey, get your Purell here.
750% markup. Way to go, Mr. Entrepreneur.
$750 a bottle. Step right up. That's always going to happen. The danger, I think, is we look at people like that and we extrapolate, oh, that's the way people are. But it's not the way people are. That's the aberration. That's the exception to the rule. Yeah. And that's a great thing.
It is a great thing. It is a great thing. And I love that distinction. I'm kind of switching the words around, but what I'm getting from what you're saying is that all these other things happen somewhere. They happen in Australia. They happen in New Orleans. They happened in Thailand. They happen, I was part of somewhere when it happened in Northern California. I was living somewhere. Yeah. But this is everywhere. Yeah. And what a profound difference that is. Like the difference between something crisis like this happening somewhere, which for 99.9% of the world is somewhere else, versus everywhere. And now 100% of us, it's here.
And we've never experienced that.
No,
none of us has ever experienced that. I mean, probably the closest would be World War II, I'm guessing. But even that, the war was overseas. If you live in the U.S., or in Europe, obviously a different story. But the Vietnam War, we watched that on TV. Most of us, right. unless they're over there fighting, as many of our friends were. It's that proximity that none of us can escape. That's really bringing to light how closely connected we are.
Right.
And that is going to serve us well after we get through this.
So you've done a lot of work in the area of leadership. How do you see leadership connecting to this whole conversation? What's important for leaders to remember? How do we decide whether we are or are not a leader in the midst of all this? Like, where does leadership fit in?
I think it brings into sharper relief what's always been true. So, you mentioned my newer book, Love is Just Damn Good Business. I titled it. I agree with you. I think it's a great title. and I titled it. I titled it that because love is just damn good business. It's a reflection of the truth. I've seen it play out in my 30 years of doing leadership work in every kind of company and industry there is. So that's always been true, but it's in sharper relief now. And everything having to do with leadership has always been true. It's just even more true now because because all of us are experiencing that baseline level of fear and anxiety and uncertainty and ambiguity, or, wherever you are on that spectrum. And what's also always been true about leadership is that it has nothing to do with your position or your title. It has to do with your ability to influence people, to change things for the better. And we have that opportunity to do that for each other. So this is a leadership opportunity for every single one of us. In our willingness and ability, and then taking the action on that to have conversations like you and I are having right now, to listen in on these kind of conversations, to reach out and support people and give them the encouragement that they need and the help that they need and the advice that they need, and to accept that as well. That's what great leaders do under normal circumstances. So I think it's a wonderful kind of object lesson in what great leaders do and who those great leaders are. It's not just the people that we watch on television, or the people that we vote for, or the people that have risen through the ranks in a company. They have a responsibility as well. But it's what we do. It's how we show up every day. And we all have our networks, and we all have our communities, and we all have our families. And that's an exaggeration. There are some people who are alone and isolated. But most of us have connections with people. And right now is our opportunity to reach out to those people that we're connected with in some way or another, and be there for them and help them through. And that's great leadership.
Yeah.
And maybe this perspective, or this understanding that there are some people who really are isolated. Who are they? Who are those people that that might be in that category, and can you reach out to them? Because they're not in a position, or they don't really see themselves as being able to reach out to anybody. What if they are reached out to? It just kind of struck me this morning, and we get so caught up in our own reality. So one of the things that I've realized is, we're empty nesters here, and my wife Veronica and I are business partners. And so we're together all the time under all circumstances. So this is, as far as that goes.
I'm laughing with you because I'm right there with you. My wife and I, empty nesters, kids are all gone. We both work at home.
Well, there's a lot of people listening to our conversation right now who are not empty nesters, and they're holed up with their kids 24 hours a day. That's a challenge that, just left to my own devices, wouldn't even occur to me, because it's not my reality.
And I'm jealous of those people a little bit too, just a little bit. Like, I'm not ready to take it on, but if they wanted to send their kids over for a day, I might be able to handle it. But
yeah, but here's the other thing that occurred. So that I've been paying attention to, but what occurred to me today, and I'm being, just completely, as I always strive to be, honest and transparent. It hadn't occurred to me until today that there are people out there. They're not only they don't have their kids around, they live alone.
Mm-hmm.
They're not holed up with another human being all day long. They're isolated. They're by themselves. And, for some people, maybe that's a wonderful thing. That sounds like nirvana. But for most of us, myself included, oh my gosh, that might be okay for a couple of days, but a few months?
Yeah.
That is really, that's a challenge that doesn't naturally occur to me, because it's not my situation. So this is our opportunity to really consider, what are the specific, unique challenges that other people have, and how can I reach out? We have this wonderful technology where we can do this, reach out and spend some time with folks to keep them company when they're just not in a position to seek that out for themselves.
Yeah, we taught my mom Zoom last week. Yeah, she's in her 80s. Some serious resistance to Zoom.
Oh, really?
My computer's too old. I can't do this, whatever. And then we scheduled a family call on Sunday, and she's home alone. My brothers go by and visit, because I was at a couple of conferences. I haven't seen her in a few weeks, because we want to take the chance if I was, carrying something or whatever. But I checked in with her on Sunday morning to make sure she was all set up for this Zoom call. And she's, oh yeah, I took a yoga class yesterday on Zoom.
Oh, that's great.
Like, what?
Fantastic.
But it is important, and it is easy, like you said, like to just Remember who those people are. It doesn't take a lot. Just reach out, connect, check in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you kind of answered one of the other questions I wanted to ask you, because I thought for sure this whole love is just damn good business thing. I figured that had all gone out the window, right? Like, how could that possibly be relevant anymore? With the world completely changing. But it sounds like your take is that it still has some relevance, right?
More relevance than ever.
Yeah.
More relevance than ever. I mean, what do we have? That's pretty much all we have left at the, at this moment in time. That's why people are responding so beautifully to all these Zoom, these Zoom and whatever other technology we're using to connect with each other, because connecting is what the heart does. And there's really interesting brain research on this, and I'm not a brain expert, but my friend Marty Glenn, who's the founder of Risio, which they do really wonderful kind of leadership work. She's been around for quite some time.
I met Marty years ago through Jack. Yeah.
She's an old friend of Jack. She lives up in Santa Barbara.
Do you still talk to her regularly?
I do. Yeah. In fact, she spoke at our event at the end of February.
Would you tell her I said hello? And
I will.
I honestly, I don't even know if she will remember me. I think she may have come to the very first Transformational Leadership Council meeting at Jack's house.
I think that maybe that sounds familiar.
And I have such a wonderful, warm heart memory of her. Please tell her I said hello.
Yeah, I will for sure. She's quite extraordinary.
She'll go, who?
Who? Oh, okay.
Well, that's
say hi back.
16, 17 years ago now. I think it was 2004 or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So she does a lot of work around how the brain functions. And one of the things she shared with us at the Extreme Leadership Experience at the end of February, which we got in right onto the wire, was that we're familiar with how human beings respond to threat, and we call it fight or flight, right? So we're either going to fight or we're going to run away. And what she said is there's actually a third response, which is just as, if not more powerful. It's flight, fight, or connect. One of the ways that we as social creatures deal with a threat is by connecting with each other to meet that threat. And that is what's playing out. And it's the heart that connects, right? So in a time of challenge, acknowledging and acting on what should love look like in these particular times is what is going to get us through. And if we can ask the question of our customers, what do our customers and clients need now? The same as everybody else. They need connection and support. So one of the things that I'm doing, which I've literally never done before, is I have made my booking calendar available to everybody. So I'll send out an email to my list. How you doing? You want to just have a chat? Book a call. Here's my calendar. Because there are going to be people out there that's really what they need to do right now.
Yep.
So, and of course, that's why we're seeing a lot of why you're doing this kind of extra podcast. And, we've been doing some online special events on Zoom and getting, filling them up with 100 people. There's no price tag associated with it. It's just what we need to do right now. So that's our opportunity. And that's love. And it's more important, now it's more important now than ever before.
I totally agree. But I was so ready with that question. I was going to give you a hard time.
Well, you asked it.
Well, and I think it clearly connects back to the previous question about leadership, because those moves that we make right now, the conversations that we get into, the things that we do, the decisions that we make that come from a place of love, but that person who's alone, reaching out to them, that's coming from a place of love and care and concern. Yeah. Those are very powerful leadership moves. We might not typically think of them as a leadership move, but people are watching, and they are leadership moves.
Absolutely.
I feel very strongly.
They are, and they will be just as true, and have always been as true after this is all over.
Yep.
And my hope is that we will have gotten so good at connecting via the technology that when we can actually, again, be in the same room together, we're going to be so grateful for that. We're going to appreciate it so much. We're not going to squander that opportunity to really connect and have conversation. And that's what we've been teaching people forever anyway.
Yeah.
So that's my perpetual optimist perspective on it. That's good alliteration. Perpetual optimist perspective.
Yeah, 3 times fast. So another thing I know about you, and I see it in the screen, and for people who are watching the video, you may just be listening to the audio, but if you were watching the video, you would see what I think is a ukulele on top of the bookshelf back there, and a little, barely I can see it, guitar down in the lower right-hand corner there. Yes, so music is a big part of your life. You and I were very blessed to attend one of the last known events to mankind in San Diego, California, and you were gracious enough to share some of your music and bring some of that wonderful energy. What are your thoughts about the importance and the value of music right now? You talked about concerts going on online and all those things. What can we do to allow music to help us through this time?
Yeah, I think music is always important, because it actually has an effect on the brain. It opens us up to be more receptive. It's great therapy. That's why human beings have always listened to music. Another thing, by the way, that Marty Glenn subscribes to in her work is bring music in, because it has that effect on us. And so, obviously, working musicians had all of their gigs canceled, just like working speakers like myself had all of our gigs canceled. Everybody's gigs are canceled, no matter what they do. So what happened is it's brought music online in ways that we haven't seen before. So there's one group that I'm a member of that's called Socially Distant Fest. And it's just Facebook Live after Facebook Live of people sitting in their houses playing music. And some are really great and some are, very generous in sharing their music. And it's all wonderful.
Very well-intentioned.
Yeah, which is what an open mic. If you ever been to an open mic, that's what makes them great, right?
Comedy, music, it's all the same.
It's just that beautiful, here I am, this is what I do. Don't judge, just listen and have a good time.
There may be a very good reason you've never heard of me before, but don't
yeah.
let that get in your way.
I just have a great time just scrolling through that and hearing these great songs and this great music, and it's happening everywhere. I read an article in the New York Times not too long ago. It was about the ways in which social events are carrying on in these times, and they've talked about these some of these really high-end famous DJs doing concerts, live concerts from a giant empty warehouse that would, under normal circumstances, be packed, with human beings, undulating for hours, but doing it online. And it's wonderful because, all of us, it's really easy to bring live music into our homes right now. We've never been able to do that before. It's really an unusual thing to have a streaming, live concert. Our friends, the Brothers Corn, have been doing that quite a bit, doing Facebook live concerts and it's just wonderful. Yeah. So I've been participating in that a little bit. I actually want to do more of that on the giving side, not just the receiving side. But I think music is what's so powerful about it is it's one of the ways that we come together as human beings. We sing the same. For those of us that like the same music, we sing the same songs. We gather with people who are interested in that same genre that we're in, and there's such a variety that there's something for everybody. I've only met one person in my life who has said, in all seriousness, they don't like music.
Really?
It's almost weird to even say it out loud. It has no interest
music?
No. Does not have any interest in music. I know a lot of people. That's one person in my life. So it's it's that universal way to come together, and the greatest music comes from a place of love and passion and creativity.
Well, and it communicates so much. You'll appreciate this. I was running the other day, And, I live in the wine country of Northern California, and I was running, and there was this beautiful vineyard on one side. And then there was a hill that goes up on the other side of the road. And there were houses up on the hill. And out of one of the houses is this music blaring out over, rolling down the hill and out over the vineyard. You just imagine. And I was getting closer to it, and I couldn't quite recognize what the song was. But as I got close enough, I realized it was the Carpenters. Remember the old song "Close to You" by the Carpenters? Like, I can't do it justice.
Close
like,
to you.
Yeah, I long to be close to, and I just pictured this
me.
person or a couple of people, like my wife and I were here alone, just like, we long to be close to you, and they just cranked it up, and it was going all out through the vineyard. And
funny.
I was about maybe 20 minutes from my house at that point, and I laughed the entire 20 minutes while I was running from there to my house. I was laughing, and I couldn't wait to bring it up on Spotify and tell the story to my wife.
I'm just impressed that you could run and laugh at the same time.
It may have slowed me down a little bit. I don't know, but it was just a perfect example of exactly what you're saying. That music, it just communicated something to me. It anchored me in. Yeah. Like, I felt like I knew those people, because that was the song that they chose, and that they chose to blare it out like that.
I've seen a thread on Facebook of somebody saying, what's your favorite quarantine themed song? Kind of along those lines, right? Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah. Well, I knew this was going to happen. I'm watching the clock, so we're going to have to stop. But
okay.
I am deeply, deeply grateful. I do want to ask you one more question, though.
Yeah.
If people are curious about your work, if they're curious about the book, if they want to book one of those appointments on your calendar, what is the best way for people to reach out and find you and find out more about the work you're doing?
Yeah, thank you. So there's two places, stevefarber.com and extremeleadership.com.
Okay.
And if you'd like to book a call with me, I'd welcome that conversation. It's stevefarber.com/call. as in CALL. And that'll take you to my calendar, and find a day and time that works for you, and we'll have a Zoom call.
Awesome.
This is how I'm making friends nowadays.
There you go.
We launched our Love is Just Damn Good Business podcast recently.
Oh, yes.
So you'll find that as well, stevefarber.com/podcast. And that's available on, all the various outlets. I'm on social media all over the place. If you can remember my name, you can find me. LinkedIn, Steve Farber; Twitter, Steve Farber; Instagram, Steve Farber. You get the pattern.
Not that hard to find. Not that hard to find. Still in the single digits on gatekeepers, right? Well, thank you.
In the single digits.
Not more than 10 people I have to go through to get to you, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, cool.
Oh, man. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. This is
My
really
pleasure.
a perfect example of what I had in mind when I reached out to do this daily series. It's turning out to be quite an endeavor. I'm remembering why I don't do a podcast episode every single day. It's like a full-time job.
Well, bless your heart for doing so, man. This is the perfect time to do it.
It's been very well received. And again, people like you are everything to do with why I've been able to, I feel like, resist the invitation into all those conversations that are out there constantly that I just don't want to dive into. Yeah. And to stay in that place of positive and optimistic and solutions focused and possibility focused. Because the panic doesn't help. Yes, it's good to be aware, but the panic isn't going to help.
Yeah.
So
that's amen to that. We're all helping each other.
Yeah. So, and thank you to our listeners as well. We're thrilled that you chose to join us. Please follow up, check up on Steve and his work. It's amazing. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Excellent Decisions podcast, where we're here to help you make more excellent decisions based on vision, values, and values, so you can be truly happy according to the ancient Greek definition of happiness, the experience of joy while in pursuit of your potential. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Steve.